Princess Nira stood inside the cold silver lab of the starship Veyron. Outside the thick window, stars stretched like tiny lights in the dark. But inside the room, her attention was fixed on one thing: the human. He was lying on a clear table, asleep, inside a soft blue energy field. His name was Tom. He wore simple earth-clothes dark pants, a worn-out jacket, and old boots. His hair was short and a bit messy, and his face was calm, even though he was far from home. Nira was not used to seeing calm faces in her lab. Most test subjects were scared. But Tom was different. She turned to her tablet and checked his information again. Tom, human, age, 27. Profession, mechanic, she read softly. Humans were new to the E3 Empire. They lived far on the edge of the galaxy, and they were not part of the Interstellar Council, but they were becoming known quickly. E3 scientists had studied many species, but none had DNA as strange as humans. Their bodies healed fast, their minds adapted quickly, and they were born in every kind of climate. To Nira, that made them special. If I can clone him, she said to herself, maybe I can give the Empire something new, something powerful. Nira was not just any scientist. She was a princess daughter of the Empress, future ruler of the Etheri. Her people were strong, proud, and serious. They believed in order, rank, and perfect bloodlines. That's why this project was secret. Only her assistant Rello knew the truth. Still no success? Rello asked as he walked in. He was tall and quiet, his skin a pale green, his eyes sharp and serious. Nira shook her head. His DNA won't stay stable. Every time we try to make a clone, it changes the process. It resists control. Rello looked at the sleeping human. That is ... strange. No other species has done that. That's why we must keep trying. Nira said, humans are different. If we understand them, we can improve ourselves. She ordered another scan. A blue light passed over Tom's body. Symbols danced across her screen. Again, the DNA shifted slightly, just enough to break the cloning process. Nira stared. It's like it knows we're trying to copy it. Hello. Frowned. That's impossible. DNA doesn't think. But human DNA, Nira whispered, might do more than we expect. Tom began to stir. His eyes opened slowly. He blinked and looked around. Where am I? Said in a soft voice. Nira froze. She had planned to keep him asleep during the testing. But something had woken him early. You're safe, she said calmly, stepping forward. You're aboard a research ship. No harm will come to you. He sat up slowly. The energy field didn't stop him. It wasn't meant to hold prisoners. Just protect the subject. Research? Ship. I don't even remember getting on a spaceship, he said, rubbing his head. You were taken from Earth during a peaceful scan. Your world was not harmed, Nira explained. Tom looked at her early. Looked. Are you ... an alien? Nira smiled gently. Yes, I am Nira. I come from the E3 Empire. Tom stared for a second, then laughed softly. Okay. ... Weird dream. Or maybe I hit my head fixing a truck. Either way, I'll roll with it. He stood up and looked around the lab. Nice. Place kind of cold. You got coffee here? Nira blinked. She wasn't used to this. Subjects usually cried or shouted or begged to go home. He was just being himself. You're very calm, she said. Well, Tom said, stretching. If I panic, nothing changes. If I stay calm, maybe I learn something. That's what I do. Fix problems. Nira tilted her head. She found that interesting. Why were you studying me? Tom asked. She told him the truth. We wanted to understand your species. Your kind has qualities that are ... rare. You survive in places other life cannot. You learn fast. You grow strong in ways others cannot. Tom scratched his head. So ... I'm like a science project. Not just you, she said, your DNA. We tried to copy it. But it changes when we try. It resists. Tom gave a small smile. Yeah, that sounds like us. We're stubborn. Stubborn, she repeated. Yes, Maybe that is the word. They talked more. Tom asked about her world, her people, the ship. Nero was surprised at how easy it was to speak with him. He didn't use big words, but his ideas were clear. He asked smart questions. He made jokes, simple ones, but they made her laugh. By the end of the hour, she had forgotten he was a test subject. She was simply talking to someone who felt real. Later, when Tom was resting, Nira sat alone with her data. She reviewed the scans. The last test had reacted strangely. A tiny shift, a change not in him. But in her, she ran a personal scan just in case. The result appeared. Her breath caught. No, she whispered. She ran it again. Same result. Princess Nira, heir to the Ethery Empire, daughter of a bloodline that prided itself on perfect control, was now showing early signs of something never before seen in her kind. She was pregnant, and the DNA matched the human Tom. Princess Nira stood in front of the scanner, holding the small silver tablet tightly in her hands. Her eyes stayed fixed on the result, even though she had already read it 3 times. The screen showed a clear message. Pregnancy confirmed it. Was not possible, or so she thought. E3 biology was complex. Their kind could only conceive through special genetic permission after long preparation. For someone like her, a royal, the process was even more controlled.
How?
This pregnancy had not been planned. It had not been allowed. And the most shocking part, the DNA inside her was not fully ethery. Half of it belonged to the human. To Tom, Nira paced across the lab, her long coat brushing the floor. Her heart was beating fast. Her thoughts raced. I didn't touch him in that way, she whispered to herself. There was no joining, no physical contact that could explain this. The only link between them had been during the failed clone test. She remembered standing near him, the cloning field open, the scanners active. His DNA had touched hers, but only on a data level. So how did this happen? Could the cloning process have ... reversed? She wondered. She didn't know. But one thing was clear. The child growing inside her was real, and it was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen before. Just then the door opened. Her assistant Relo stepped in. Nira, he said quietly, is something wrong? You asked for a full body scan earlier. I came to check. She looked at him. Relo was loyal. They had worked together for 6 years. He knew her better than most, but still, this was dangerous information. Nia hesitated, then showed him the tablet. Relo read the message. His expression did not change for a moment. Then, slowly, his eyes widened. This cannot be, he said. It is, Nira answered softly. The child's DNA is 50% human. The rest is mine. But how? He asked. Q. Never I know, she interrupted. It must have happened during the cloning attempt. His cells reacted differently. They didn't copy. They ... connected. Relo looked at her closely. Does the council know? No, she said quickly, and they must not. If they find out, they'll say I broke royal law. They might try to remove me from the line of rule. Or worse, ... harm the child. For a moment, Relo said nothing. Then slowly he nodded. I will not tell anyone, he said. Nira felt a wave of relief. Relo was quiet, careful, and not quick to judge. That's why she had trusted him all these years. I need time to think, she said. Keep monitoring the ship's logs. If anyone accesses my scan file, delete it. He gave a nod and left the lab quietly. Nira turned back to the energy room. Tom was sitting up now, looking through the clear wall, watching the stars. She entered the room. Hey, he said with a small smile. How's the alien science going? She forced a smile. Unpredictable. Tom laughed. Yeah, that sounds about right. She sat on the bench across from him. Tom, she said softly, do you feel different since the last test? He scratched his chin. Not really. Just kind of hungry. I mean, I've been sleeping for who knows how long. Any pain? Any strange thoughts or feelings? He tilted his head. Well, I had a dream. You were in it. That surprised her. What kind of dream? We're standing in a garden, he said. and there was a light. You were holding something. I think it was a child. Yours, maybe? Nira froze. A child? Yeah, Tom. Said weird, right? It felt real. She stood slowly. Her face stayed calm, but inside her mind was racing. Was it just a dream? Or was something deeper connecting them? Tom, I need to run one more scan, she said. Nothing painful, just a brain scan, to check for changes. Tom nodded. Sure, as long as it doesn't turn me into a lizard. Nira placed a small band across his head. The screen on her wrist lit up. Brainwaves flowed, across it like rivers of light. What she saw was ... unusual. There was a pattern forming in Tom's brain. A gentle signal, almost like a link knot, just with her, but with something inside her. She turned away before he could see her worry. Is something wrong? He asked. No, she lied. Everything is normal. But it wasn't. The pregnancy was already creating a mental bond between them, kind of biological echo. Even across species, the child inside her was reaching out. Connecting to the human who helped create it, Nir walked out of the room and closed the door behind her. She needed to make a choice. Keeping the child meant hiding from her own people. It meant breaking the rules of her world. It meant facing danger from those who believed in tradition over truth. But looking at Tom so normal, so human yet so calm and kind, Nira felt something she had never felt before. Hope. Hope that maybe this child was not a mistake. Maybe it was a new beginning. She placed her hand on her stomach. It was only the beginning. She had no idea what would come next. But one thing was sure, the universe had changed forever. End of part 2. Princess Nira sat quietly in her private chamber aboard the starship Veyron. The lights were low. The stars outside moved slowly across the window. She could feel her heart beating faster than usual. Her hand rested gently on her stomach. She was pregnant. The tests confirmed it. The scans were clear. The child growing inside her was half human, half Tom. This news was not just strange, it was dangerous. In the Aethery Empire, royal bloodlines were protected with strong rules. Children of the royal family could only be born with approval from the High Council. Every match was carefully chosen. The child of a human, especially one from a young, unknown world like Earth, was something the Empire would never accept if the Council found out. They might remove her title. Or worse, they might try to take the child from her. She couldn't let that happen. A soft sound made her turn. It was Relo, her assistant. He stepped inside with a worried look on his face. I checked the ship's systems, he said quietly. One has seen your scan files yet. I added a lock. Only I can access them now. Nira nodded. Thank you, Relo. I owe you more than you know. He stood for a moment, then asked, What will you do now? She looked at him, unsure. I don't know, she said. If I stay here, they will discover the truth. But if I run, I will be hunted. Relo was silent for a few seconds, then spoke slowly. You are not just a princess. You're a scientist, a thinker. You always say, knowledge should guide us, not fear. She gave a small smile. And what does your knowledge tell you? That child, Relo said, may be the most important being in the galaxy. Nira looked away. Maybe, but all that Empire will see is shame. Just then her wristband beeped. A message came from the main control deck. It was from a royal officer named Veeler, known for his strict loyalty to the Empress. Princess Nira, please report to the Royal Hall for a private meeting. Urgent matter. Her heart sank. They know something, she whispered. Relo stepped forward. Don't go. We can leave now, take a scout ship and disappear before they come. You can't just vanish, she said. That would confirm. Their suspicions? I'll go to the meeting. Try to act normal. Buy some time. Relo hesitated, then nodded. Be careful. An hour later, Nira entered the royal hall aboard the ship. It was tall and grand, with silver walls and high windows showing the stars. Viller stood in the center, waiting. He bowed slightly. Princess, thank you for coming. She returned the bow calmly. What is the urgent matter? Villar motioned for a screen to rise. It showed a report her lab's cloning data. Not the scan showing her pregnancy, but close. Too close. You've been studying a human, Wheeler said, without permission. I followed the research law, Nira replied. We took one human from a quiet area. No one was harmed. This file, Wheeler said, pointing at the screen, shows failed clone attempts. DNA conflict, repeated scans. Why would you try so hard to copy this human? Nira kept her voice calm. Because his DNA resists us. It changes. It adapts. I believe humans hold something we don't understand yet. Wheeler narrowed his eyes. And what did you find? She chose her words carefully. I found that humans are not weak, as we once believed. Their biology is simple, but powerful, dangerous if used wrongly. Wheeler turned off the screen. The Empress will ask about your research soon. I advise you to be careful. Some in the council think you are... distracted. Nira forced a smile. I assure you, I am still loyal to the Empire. Then prove it, Wheeler said coldly. End this human study. Return to the capital. Let the council decide how to handle the human. Nira bowed and left the hall. Her legs felt weak, but she kept walking. Her mind raced. They were getting too close. Back in her lab, Tom was awake again. He sat at the edge of the bed, swinging his legs slightly. He looked calm, but there was worry in his eyes. You were gone a long time, he said. Everything okay? Nira sat beside him. Not really. He looked at her carefully. Did I do something wrong? She shook her head. No, Tom. You didn't do anything, but the Empire. They won't understand this. They won't accept what's happened. He frowned. You mean the baby? She nodded slowly. Yes. Tom rubbed the back of his neck. Guess I'm not exactly royal material? Nira gave a soft laugh. It was short but real. Oh, but you're more important than you know. He looked at her. So what now? I need time to think, she said. Time to plan. Tom leaned back and looked at the ceiling. You know, when I was a kid, I always wanted to go to space. Never thought it would end like this. Maybe it's not the end, she said quietly. Maybe it's just the beginning. That night, Nira stood by the window of her chamber. Looking out at the stars, her hand touched her stomach again. The child inside her was growing. She could feel a soft warmth there, something alive, something strong. She had made a mistake, yes, but maybe it was a beautiful one. She turned to her desk and opened her star map. There were distant systems, quiet ones, far from E3 control. Refugee planets, neutral stations, hidden colonies, places where a human and an alien child might be safe. She whispered to herself, I can't go back. Not now. It was clear she had to escape. Not just to protect herself, but to protect the child. And maybe, just maybe, to protect the future. Princess Nira stared at the glowing star map in her hands. Her eyes moved slowly from one planet to another, looking for a place far enough from the E3 Empire. Needed somewhere safe, somewhere they wouldn't find her. Behind her, the door opened with a soft hiss. Rello entered quietly. They've started watching your lab, he said in a low voice. Rello placed a new officer outside. Nira didn't turn around. They don't trust me anymore. They know something is wrong, Rello replied. It won't be long before they find out everything. She closed the map and turned to face him. Then we must leave. Tonight? Rello looked surprised. Leave the ship? Yes, she said firmly. I've found a neutral system. It's called Doran Reach. It's not part of the council. Many species live there. No empire laws. No royal rules. Rello paused. Then nodded. I will prepare a stealth pod. Nira placed her hand gently on her stomach. The child is growing faster than I expected. Every day we stay here is dangerous. And what about the human? Rello asked. She looked at him. Tom is coming with us. Tom sat on a bench in the small rest area, holding a cup of warm liquid. It didn't taste like coffee, but it was. Clothes. He stared at the stars through the window, thinking about everything that had happened. First, he was taken from Earth. Then, he was told he was part of an alien experiment. And now, there was a child involved. His child, it still didn't. Feel real? The door opened, and Nira walked in. She looked calm but serious. "We're leaving," she said. "Tonight." Tom blinked. "Leaving? Where to?" "A place called Doran Reach. It's far from the Empire. A free system." He set the cup down. "Why are we going there?" Nira hesitated for a second. "Because if we don't, the Empire will take the child. They'll see it as a mistake, or worse. A threat." Tom stood slowly. "I see. I understand if you don't want to come," she added. "You didn't ask for any of this." He looked at her for a long moment. "I may not understand everything, but I'm not the kind of person who walks away. This child is part of me too, and well, I'm not leaving you alone." A quiet moment passed between them. For the first time, Nira felt a kind of peace. Not because they were safe, but because she wasn't facing this alone. That night, the ship was quiet. Most of the crew were resting. Rello had shut down a few cameras and added false data to the logs. Nira wore a simple gray cloak over her dress, and Tom had changed into a plain flight suit. He had never worn anything like it before. "This makes me look like I know what I'm doing," he joked. Nira gave a small smile. "Let's hope you learn quickly." They walked quietly through the side corridor. Rello met them near the hangar. The stealth pod was ready, a small, dark ship shaped like a silver blade. It could travel fast and stay hidden from most scanners. "I've loaded food, supplies, and a basic map of safe zones," Rello said. "It's not luxury, but it will keep you alive." Nira placed her hand on his shoulder. "Thank you, Rello, for everything." He nodded, his voice calm. "May your path be safe, princess." Tom gave Rello a small wave. "See you around, big guy." The pod's door opened, and they stepped inside. As soon as they were seated, Nira activated the controls. The pod lifted gently off the floor and slid through a hidden exit port. They were free. The stars passed quickly around them. The pod moved in silent speed, avoiding patrol paths and busy space routes. Tom sat beside Nira in the small cockpit, watching her hands. "Move across the controls, you're good at this," he said. "I trained for missions like this," she replied. "But I never thought I'd use that training to run away." He looked at her. "Sometimes running is the smart choice." She didn't answer, but her lips curved into the smallest smile. They traveled for hours. The pod hummed quietly. Nira gave Tom a short lesson on space travel, how to read signals, and how to detect danger. "You learn fast," she said after a while. "I fix things," he replied. "Dust never thought I'd be fixing my own future in space." Later, Nira rested. In the back room of the pod, Tom took the controls. He didn't know much, but he followed the path she had set. The ship was quiet, peaceful, until the warning light flashed. "Uh-oh," he muttered. A red dot blinked on the screen. A scanner pulse had touched their pod briefly, but clearly. Not just any scanner, E3 military. Tom called Nira at once. She rushed back, her face serious. "They found a trace," she said. "But we're too far to catch now. Still, we have to change course." They rerouted the ship, moving through a small asteroid field. Nira handled the turns with sharp focus. Tom held his breath more than once. Finally, the scanner cleared. No sign of pursuit. They reached Doran Reach 12 hours later. Doran Reach was nothing like the clean, bright world Nira grew up in. It was a mix of metal cities, desert land, glowing lakes, and huge sky markets. Ships came and went. Creatures from 100 worlds walked the streets. Tom stepped out of the pod and looked around. "Well, ... This place is alive," Nira nodded. "It's not perfect, but it's free." They found a small room to stay in, just one bed, a table, and an old window that showed part of the city. It was not a palace, but it was safe that night. Nira sat by the window, her hand on her belly. The baby was growing. She could feel its heartbeat now, strong, steady. Tom walked over and sat beside her. "I don't know what's coming," he said, "but I'm with you." She looked at him. "Even if it means never going back to Earth." He nodded. Earth was just a place. But this is something more. She looked out at the stars again. The Empire would come one day. Would search. They might even find her. But for now, she had a chance. A chance to protect her child. a chance to live free, and maybe a chance to love. Doran Reach was unlike any place Tom had ever seen. There were no tall buildings or clean streets. Instead, it was loud, messy, and full of strange life. The sky changed colors every few hours. The streets were packed with aliens of every kind tall. Ones glowing ones, flying ones, others that looked like walking machines. Tom walked through the busy street with Nira beside him. She wore a dark hood to hide her face. Though they had escaped the Empire, they couldn't be careless. The baby growing inside her was too important. Their new home was a smaller metal room above a repair shop. The floor creaked, the bed was thin, and the lights flickered sometimes, but it was safe. It was all that mattered. Tom found work fixing ship parts in a nearby hangar. His hands were used to tools, and even though the technology was different, the rules were the same. If it's broken, find the part, patch it up, test it twice. The others at the hangar didn't ask many questions. Human on Doran Reach was. Rare, but not shocking. Many came here to hide. Back at their room, Nira spent most of her time resting or studying the baby's development. The child was growing faster than a normal human or ethery baby. Within a few weeks, Nira could feel strong movements in her belly. The child was healthy but unusual. "This baby is more than just a mix of us," she told Tom one evening. "Its heartbeat is faster. Its brain activity is advanced. I believe it's evolving in a new way." Tom looked worried. "Is that a bad thing?" She shook her head. "I don't think so. It just means... we're in unknown territory." Tom sat beside her. "We've been in unknown territory since the moment I woke up on your ship." Nira smiled softly. She had grown close to Tom during these weeks. He was simple, but strong. He didn't speak like a royal, but he understood people. He never complained, and he always found a way to help. One day, Nira decided to walk through the market. She needed fresh supplies. Tom offered to go, but she said she needed air. As she moved through the market stalls, she felt the baby shift inside her. The feeling was warm like a small spark of light. She paused near a quiet stand selling soft food made from fruit-like plants. The shopkeeper, an older alien woman with large golden eyes, looked at her and said, "First child?" Nira nodded. "Yes. You carry a strong soul," the woman said. "I feel it." Nira looked surprised. "You can feel it." The woman smiled kindly. "I was a birth healer long ago. That child inside you is not ordinary. Protect it well." Nira thanked her and walked back quickly. Her heart was beating fast again, not from fear, but from the growing truth. This child was something new. When she returned to the room, she found Tom fixing the wall heater. "Back already?" he asked, wiping his hands. She nodded. "Yes. I think we should be more careful. People are starting to notice." Tom stood up. "Did someone say something?" "Not in a bad way," she said. "But the baby's energy is strong. It's not just science anymore. It's something deeper." Tom looked serious. "You think the Empire can track it?" "Maybe not yet," she said. "But one day, they might." That night, as the twin moons of Doran Reach rose in the sky, Nira lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Tom was already asleep on the small couch. She could hear his slow breathing. She thought about the future. What kind of life would her child have? Would they always be running? Would the Empire always chase them? But another thought came. What if the child brought change? What if this baby could show the galaxy that humans and ethery were not enemies, but something more? A week later, Tom and Nira were invited to a quiet dinner by one of the hangar owners, a man named Jiran, who had helped Tom find work. His home was simple, but filled with old tech and warm lights. He had a kind heart and spoke in a deep, friendly voice. During dinner, Jiran leaned in and said, "I've heard things. Whispers about ethery patrol ships coming close to Doran Reach. They're looking for someone." Nira's hand froze. Tom asked carefully, "Do they know who?" Jiran shook his head. "Not yet. But people talk. The market knows when someone new arrives, especially someone like her." He looked at Nira with gentle eyes. "I don't mean harm, but if you need help hiding, I know some people." Nira gave a small bow. "Thank you. You may need that." Soon, on their way back, Tom whispered, We're not safe anymore, are we? Nira shook her head. No, the Empire is close. What? But we won't run again, Tom said. Not forever. Nira stopped walking. What do you mean? I mean, Tom said, maybe it's time we stopped hiding. Maybe it's time we stand up. She looked at him carefully. You want to fight the Empire? No, he said. I want to protect my family. That word family hit something. Deep inside her, for the first time in her life, Nira didn't feel like a princess or a scientist. She felt like a mother. And this man beside her, this human, was no longer just a test subject. He was part of her life now, part of their future. That night, they sat side by the window. The baby kicked gently, and Tom placed his hand on her belly. He smiled as he felt the tiny movement. She's strong, he said. Nira looked at him. You think it's a girl? Tom nodded. Yeah, just a feeling. They both smiled. Stars above them blinked softly far away. Ships of the E3 Empire moved quietly through space, scanning, searching. But here for now, under the quiet light of Doran Reach, there was peace and hope. The quiet days on Doran Reach did not last long. It began with whispers in the market. Traders spoke in low voices about E3 ships seen near the outer edge of the system. Then came the silent ships, dark gray, without flags, flying low and scanning the city blocks. People noticed, and people worried. One evening, Tom returned home from work. He shut the door behind him, face tense. They're here, he said. Nira looked up from her scanner. The Empire. He nodded. The two ships landed on the far side of the city. They said it was a patrol, but no one believes that. Nira stood. Slowly, she placed a hand on her belly. The baby inside was moving more every day. She could feel its energy strong and alert even in silence. They must have traced the pod, she said. Even with Rylo's shield, it was only a matter of time. Tom moved closer to her. We can't keep running, Nira. We need a plan. I know, she said quietly, but we can't fight them. Not alone. There was a knock at the door. Tom opened it with caution. Outside stood Jiran, the hangar owner who had helped them before. They're looking for someone, he said without greeting, an E3 female and a human. Tom felt a chill. Do they know it's us? Not yet, Jiran said. But it won't take long. You two stand out. Nira stepped forward. Is there a way out? Not safely, Jiran replied. The ports are being watched, but there might be another way. He handed Tom a small card. On it was a location. And a time. There's a meeting tonight, he explained. People who don't like the Empire, refugees, smugglers, freedom fighters. If you want help, that's where you go. That night, Nira and Tom followed the directions. They walked through quiet streets, avoiding scanners and patrols. Nira kept her hood low. Tom kept a hand near his side, where he had hidden a small tool that could act as a shock weapon if needed. They arrived at an old building. Inside, lights were dim. A group of people stood in a circle, humans, aliens, even a former E3 soldier with scars across his arms. Jaren was there. He nodded to them and stepped aside. A tall woman with gray skin and silver eyes stepped forward. You're the ones the Empire wants. Nira stayed calm. Yes, you brought something into this galaxy that they fear, the woman said. A child born from two worlds. We didn't plan it, Tom said. But now we have to protect it. The group listened quietly then. A small alien with wide yellow eyes spoke. If the Empire wants the child, it must be something powerful. They will not stop until they have it, Nira said. They'll destroy cities, silence voices, erase records. That's what they do. The room fell silent. Then the tall woman said, We've been hiding too long. Maybe it's time we make a stand. Others nodded. Tom stepped forward. I don't have weapons or training. I'm just a mechanic. But I'll fight for my family. Nira looked at him with quiet pride. The woman nodded. Then we'll help, but we must act fast. Over the next 2 days, a plan was made. Old ships were pulled from hidden docks. Drones were set up on rooftops. The people of Doran reached those who had once run from power, now prepared to face it. Nira used her knowledge of E3 tech to teach them how to break their scanners, block their signals, and confuse their systems. She moved from group to group, speaking with calm confidence. She was no longer just a scientist or a princess. She was a leader now. Tom worked with the engineers. He repaired shields, rewired weapons, and taught others how to make traps using scrap and tools at night. They returned to their room, tired but focused. The baby inside Nira kicked often, like it could feel what was coming. One evening, while Nira rested, Tom sat beside her, holding a small object in his hand. "What's that?" she asked softly. "A little charm I made," he said. "Found some wire and glass. Thought our daughter might want something from her dad." Nira took it gently and smiled. "It's beautiful." They sat together in silence, the air thick with the feeling of what was coming. The attack came at dawn. E3 ships flew over the city, dropping scanner bots and sending out warning messages. "Turn over the fugitives," the voice said. "You have 1 hour." But the people of Doran Reach did not run. They stood on rooftops, behind walls, inside tunnels, ready. The battle began with a blast. Drones swarmed the skies. Guns lit up the streets. Smoke filled the air. Tom was in the control room with Jiran, guiding energy to shields and keeping lines open. Nira stayed in the medical center, helping organize supplies and using her knowledge to treat the wounded. The city shook with noise, but they held their ground suddenly. One of the scanners broke through and locked on Nira's signal. "They found me," she said. "Then we move you," Jiran said. "No," Nira said. "If I run, they will follow. I must speak." To the center of the city and activated a wide signal broadcast. Her image appeared across every screen, every device. Even on the E3 ships, she stood tall, her hood pulled back, her eyes calm. "I am Princess Nira of the E3 Empire," she said. "I do not hide. I do not lie. I carry a child half E3, half human. I will not give her to a council that fears change." She paused. "This child is not a danger. She is a bridge between two worlds, between fear and hope. If you destroy us today, you destroy your future." The message spread fast. Some E3 soldiers paused. Some ships slowed. Then came a call from one of the Empire's leaders. His voice was cold. "You speak of hope, but you break our laws," Nira replied. "Then maybe your laws must change." The call ended. Minutes passed. Then, slowly, the E3 ships pulled back. The battle was over. The people of Doran Reach cheered. Tom found Nira standing under the rising sun. Holding her belly. "You did it," he said. "We did it," she replied. That evening the city was quiet again. Lights returned. Homes were fixed. The people who had helped now saw Nira not just as a visitor, but as one of them. As for the Etheri Empire, they said nothing more, for now. Perhaps they were thinking, perhaps they were afraid. Nira didn't know what would happen next, but as Tom placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, as their child moved with life and strength inside her, she knew this was only the beginning. The battle was over, but silence hung in the air like a question with no answer. Nira stood at the center of the city square on Doran Reach. Watching workers rebuild the streets, there were cracks in the ground, smoke still rose from some corners, and machines buzzed as people fixed broken cables. But they were alive, and they had won for now. The Empire had pulled back. No ships remained in the sky. No scanners searched the streets. No soldiers marched in shadows. But everyone knew it wasn't the end. It was a pause, a deep breath before something bigger. Tom walked up behind her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You should rest. I'm fine," she said. "Baby's quiet today." Tom looked at her belly. It was bigger now, and Nira moved slower than before. She still wore her hood when outside. Though most people in the city already knew who she was. "You did something brave," Tom said. "Standing up to them like that?" Nira looked at him. "We did it together. I couldn't have done this alone." They stood quietly for a moment. The wind carried a soft scent of metal and smoke, but it also carried voices, people working, laughing, living again. It was a sound they hadn't heard in weeks. "Do you think the Empire will return?" Tom asked. "Yes," Nira said simply. But next time, they won't come with threats. They'll come with questions. They'll want to understand." "You really believe that?" "I have to," she replied. For her, Tom smiled. "Still, sure, it's a girl. I know it," Nira said. "Every time she moves, I feel it." Later that night, in their small home above the shop, Nira sat by the window. She held the tiny glass charm Tom had made for the baby. She rubbed it between her fingers, lost in thought. She knew what the baby meant to the galaxy. A new kind of life, part human, part ethery, born from peace, not war. She wasn't just a child. She was a message. Outside, the stars blinked gently. Nira remembered her childhood on the ethery capital world cold. Bright halls, rules, silence. There had never been freedom, only duty. Now, she had something worth protecting, not because of her bloodline or her title, but because of love. Something the Empire never taught her. 2 days later, Jiran called them to a meeting in the old warehouse again. This time, the mood was different. Lighter. "We've received a message," he said, holding a small device. Empire. Everyone leaned closer. A group of scientists, Jiran continued, secretly sent a signal. They want to study the child, not to harm her, but to understand. Quietly. They think she could change how the Empire sees other species. Tom narrowed his eyes. "Can we trust them?" "Maybe," Jiran said. "Maybe not." But this message wasn't sent by commanders or soldiers. It came from those who believe the Empire must change. Nira took a breath. "Let them come. I will speak with them. On my terms here." Someone asked. "No," she said. "On neutral ground. Somewhere safe. Not for them. For us." Jiran nodded. "I'll arrange it." A week later, a small meeting took place on a quiet moon called Soralin, known for its gardens and peaceful. Nira arrived with Tom and Jiran. No weapons, just guards to watch from a distance. 3 scientists from the Empire met them in a glass dome, surrounded by flowers and soft lights. They bowed respectfully. "Princess Nira," one said, "we thank you for this meeting." "I am not here as a princess," Nira replied. "I'm here as a mother." The scientists asked questions carefully, respectfully. They did not ask for the child. They only wanted to learn. Why had the cloning failed? Why did the humans survive? Why had a new life formed instead? Nira answered with honesty. "Because cloning was not the answer," she said. "Life cannot be created in glass. It must grow from trust." Tom sat quietly beside her. He didn't speak much, but he watched every movement. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was a protector. In the end, one of the scientists said, "Perhaps this child is what the Empire needs. Not to rule ... but to listen." Nira gave a small smile, then let her be born in peace. Back on Doran Reach, time moved quickly. The people no longer feared the skies. They built homes, planted food, repaired old machines. Children played again. Merchants filled the market, and Nira prepared. For birth, Tom stayed close every day. He cooked, cleaned, checked supplies, made sure the scanner stayed off. One clear morning, the baby arrived. There was no pain scream, no panic, just quiet focus. Nira held Tom's hand tightly, her eyes locked on the healer, who nodded gently, and then the sound of a cry. Small, bright, alive. They wrapped her in a soft cloth. She had a tiny patch of blue hair, like Nira, and curious dark eyes, like Tom. Tom held her gently and looked down. "Hello, little one." Nira smiled, tired but glowing. "She's perfect." They named her Lena, a mix of both worlds. News of Lena's birth spread quickly, not as a threat, but as a symbol. Some called her a miracle. Others called her a sign of peace. For the first time in years, leaders in the empire began to speak of new laws, new ideas. Quietly, slowly, but change had begun, and it had started with a clone experiment that failed, or maybe one that succeeded in a different way. One night, Tom sat beside Nira while Lena slept in a small cradle beside them. "We've come a long way," Tom whispered. "Yes," Nira replied. "And we're not done yet. Do you ever miss your old life?" he asked. She thought for a moment. "No, I never really lived until I met you." He smiled. "What now?" Nira looked out the window at the stars. "Now we teach Lena everything we know. And maybe one day she'll teach the galaxy." Tom nodded. "That sounds like a good plan." They sat together in silence, hand in hand, while the stars watched over them. And in the quiet cradle, Anna dreamed of stars of peace and of a future no one had seen before.